Hello, and welcome to today's class on how we can use mindfulness to help us manage our finances. My name is Nashelle, and I'm one of the financial coaches at Prosperity Connection. For those of us who might not be familiar with Prosperity Connection, we're a nonprofit organization started right here in St. Louis. We were founded around 2009, and our mission is to make financial health a reality for everyone here in the St. Louis region. We do that through classes like this one, where we teach you basic skills for managing your money and credit, as well as through providing free one-on-one financial coaching to members of the community. So before we dive in, I do want to take a minute to go over a few housekeeping rules. First, this class is being recorded. So if you can't, please keep your microphones on mute and keep your video off. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat box and we'll go through those during the Q&A section at the end. So today's agenda, we'll be going over the following things. First, we're going to talk about what mindfulness is. Then we'll talk about how mindfulness can help with money management. And then we'll go into 3 concrete mindfulness tools that you can use to manage your money. Also talk about a few additional mindfulness resources that I like. And then we'll do, to close, a short guided mindfulness meditation. And then once we're finished with that, we'll do questions if you all have any. So let's get started. So what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is maintaining a moment-by-moment awareness of our thoughts, bodily sensations, and surrounding environment through a gentle, nurturing lens. What that means is that when we practice mindfulness, our thoughts are in tune into what we're sensing in the present moment instead of rehashing the past or imagining the future. In its current form as a secular Western practice, mindfulness's origins and techniques draw from Zen and Buddhist teachings. It was first popularized in the West by Jon Kabat-Zinn, who founded the mindfulness-based stress reduction program at the University of Massachusetts to treat the chronically ill in 1979. As I think we've all noticed, the mindfulness movement really started gaining popularity about 20 years ago and picked up steam all over social media, internet, library meetups, all of that over the past 5 to 10 years. So now that we have a basic idea of what mindfulness is, I want to dig a little deeper into clarifying what it does and does not do. So, mindfulness is a practice to build the skill of meeting discomfort with awareness, acceptance, and kindness. Mindfulness is not a method for escaping the uncomfortable aspects of being human. So what this means is that even though mindfulness is often sold to people as a tool for escaping discomfort, as a way to always be happy in the sense of feeling pleasant and to remove so-called negative emotions from our lives. The problem with this is that when we come to mindfulness with the expectation that we'll suddenly feel relaxed and at one with the universe, like some enlightened yogi, and what we actually find is that we still have our same frantic mind and restless body. What happens is that we end up concluding that there's either something wrong with us or that mindfulness just doesn't work. Instead, it's good to understand that mindfulness helps us accept that discomfort is an inevitable part of life. Discomfort, is a biological reality from which there is no lasting escape. Mindfulness allows us to accept the entire spectrum of our feelings and facilitates our willingness and ability to pursue our values and goals with clarity. Sitting with discomfort can also lead to the discovery that we are free to respond to life based on something more enduring than what we're feeling at any moment, that our choices and our actions don't have to be dictated by how we feel at a specific point in time. So, what does mindfulness actually have to do with money management? When applied to finances, mindfulness is being present and aware with your money. If you're feeling overwhelmed or helpless about your finances, Mindfulness can help you build the tools you need to tackle those stressors head on. In its 2019 survey of stress in the US, the American Psychological Association actually found that money is a significant source of stress for 60% of Americans. Managing stress can be a daunting task, which is why many people turn to mindfulness as a stress management tool. Mindfulness helps us pay attention without judgment to what we do with our money and how it makes us feel. It also challenges us to be more aware of money's broader role in our lives, from how it informs our definition of success to how it impacts our relationships and our own sense of self-worth. Mindfulness has also been shown to help people improve decision-making skills, regulate and process negative emotions, and build helping coping skills that can lessen your likelihood of defaulting to destructive behaviors like avoidance, overspending, or making rash decisions when faced with stress. And all of these skills are things that we definitely need when managing our money in a responsible way. Another reason that money management relates to mindfulness is because it requires introspection and behavioral change. A really great quote by Dr. Brad Klontz, who's a financial psychologist, is that you have a set of money scripts, which are beliefs around money that have been passed down to you from your parents, from your grandparents, and sometimes from your great-great-grandparents. And your financial situation right now is a direct result of those beliefs that you've been carrying around in your head since childhood. And if I, as a financial psychologist, was able to have a conversation with you and identify those beliefs, it would make perfect sense why you're in the situation you're in right now. I think it's also good to point out that, your behaviors and your actions aren't the only sources of your financial situation. Sometimes people hit hard times that are beyond their control, but these money scripts that he talks about are a big part of how we show up when it comes to the things that we can personally control about how we manage money. So if that quote seems a bit abstract, here's a more concrete example from my own personal life. Growing up, I don't remember talking about money other than general basics like how to use a bank account. However, the way I saw money show up in my day-to-day life was a means for treating yourself or as a form of self-medication when my parents or other role models felt down. All the money conversations in our household usually revolved around shopping and scoring a good deal. So I learned that money is a proxy for superficial forms of self-care instead of a tool for aligning my actions with my values. According to the money scripts that Brad Klontz talks about, and I will send a follow-up email with more information on money scripts, I would be considered a money status seeker. So that means that when I'm creating my money management system, I need to focus on recognizing and unlearning my habits around overspending and associating outward signs of wealth with my own self-worth. So for me, building both awareness and healthy alternatives to my subconscious habits is something I can work on achieving through mindfulness practices. So now that we've built a shared understanding of what mindfulness is and how it complements money management, let's, get straight to it and go over some practical tips for integrating mindfulness into your money management habits. So mindfulness practice number 1 is simply cultivating awareness. So as mentioned, like other behaviors, most of our financial habits are unconscious. By practicing mindfulness, you can uncover the money scripts we talk about that guide your financial health and behavior, as well as find tips for replacing those unhelpful behaviors you've developed over time. Mindful awareness is also key to addressing financial stress because it encourages you to be completely honest and gentle with yourself. I want you to remember that 60% of Americans say money is a significant stressor in their lives. That means that you're not alone and your current situation didn't arise just because you failed in some way. Mindfulness allows you to explore your feelings about your current situation with non-judgmental curiosity and is necessary for taking control of your money. So one tip for cultivating awareness is to try journaling. Journaling is an effective way to build self-awareness, especially if you're someone who doesn't enjoy meditation. It also doesn't have to be a long, drawn out event. Many people really only write about 3 to 10 minutes a day with their sort of journaling practices. So a few money-focused journaling prompts that I have for you all to consider are: one, thinking about what are your values and what's authentically important to you, not to your mom, not to your dad, not to your husband, what's important to you. Another one is to track your spending for the day and think about what triggered each purchase and does it align with your values. A good thing to remember is that you shouldn't judge your spending as good or bad. The point of this exercise is to be aware of your choices so that you can maintain a constant sense of your goals and values. Third, you can write down the associations you have with money and where did they come from. So, for instance, do you associate money with rejection, love, acceptance, and why do you feel that way? And the last one I have for you is, how did you learn about money? Who taught you about money? Really digging deep into those money scripts that we talked about and where your approach to money comes from. The second mindfulness practice is mindfulness meditation. So, checking in with yourself can stop you from going into an emotional tailspin when checking your bank account balance or opening a bill. Mindfulness meditation stops this emotional spiral and improves decision making by allowing us to calm our minds and non judgmentally focus on the present moment instead of obsessing over the past or future. If you're new to meditation, definitely don't expect to become a Zen master on your first or even fifth attempt. You should be kind to yourself and remember that no one gives out meditation report cards. There's no one way for meditation to look. Some do it while sitting in a formal lotus position, while others just simply sit in bed for the first 10 minutes after they wake up and, sort of pay attention to their breath as their body gets ready for the day. What really matters is finding a practice that works for you, and also knowing that if meditation just isn't your thing, that's also okay. It doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. Some people process things internally and meditation works for them, while others process things externally and journaling is more effective for them. So my tip for mindfulness meditation is to not be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to try new things, to hop from, sort of one meditation practice to another until you find what works for you. And you also don't have to build it from scratch. There are a lot of free mindfulness apps as well as podcasts that you can find. A few mindfulness apps that I like are Smiling Mind, which is a completely free app developed by psychologists and educators in Australia who had the goal of providing accessible mental health tools for all. Another great app is called Liberate. It's an app that's created specifically for supporting Black, Indigenous, and people of color's mental health. It comes with limited free meditations, and it has a paid version that's on a sliding scale model based on your ability to pay. So the normal price is $10, a discounted price is $5, and it goes even lower than that if those options are too expensive for you. And the last one is UCLA Mindful, and it's another completely free app developed by UCLA's Mindfulness Awareness Research Center. And in addition to sort of what you would expect with guided meditations and tutorials, it also has some cool weekly meditation podcasts hosted by the school's Hammer Museum of Art. So you get some sort of nice visuals as you do your weekly meditation with their podcast. The third mindfulness practice that is helpful is building a financial management practice. So sounds pretty obvious, but it is important. At the end of the day, managing your money mindfully requires you to build in a practice of financial management. So creating a regular financial management practice is integral to managing financial stress. People tend to only think about money and money management when there's a problem, which over time trains us to associate money with chronic stress. So by setting up a consistent financial management habit, whether it's a few minutes a day or an hour once a week, we can learn to decouple or undo that association with money and chronic stress. It can also make us to engage in unhealthy behavior when faced with stressful financial decisions because we don't have those immediate stress triggers whenever we're looking at financial documents like our bank statements. So the final tip I have is creating a dedicated space and time for money management. So when it comes to building your financial management practice, the first thing you want to do is make sure you treat your money management time like you would a doctor's appointment or a weekly date night. And by that, I mean make an appointment and stick with it. And don't treat it as something that you can procrastinate on or put off. It's just as important as any other appointment in your calendar. Second thing is to just think about some basic components of regular money self-care. So the particulars are going to look different for each person, whether you have a small business or you're managing finances for yourself and your kids. But some basic components of just self-care in general when it comes to your money are tracking your daily and weekly spending, checking your account balances and transactions, and evaluating or checking in with your spending plan. Some people call it a budget. I prefer to call it a spending plan, just because budgets tend to be associated with sort of punishment, and that's really not at all what we're doing. The third tip is to create a calming environment. Like I said, you want to build a association not of stress when it comes to managing your money, but a feeling of empowerment and a feeling of, like I said, non-judgmental curiosity when it comes to how you relate to your money. So you can make some tea, play some chill music, or just do whatever helps you relax. And then finally, before you work with your money, make sure you're checking in with your current mental and emotional state. You don't want to make big financial decisions while under great stress or anxiety. So depending on what's going on, that could mean doing a short meditation before you start your money management time, or it could be rescheduling that time for a moment when you aren't under great stress or you aren't in a hectic environment. A couple of bonus resources, just because I really like them, is a couple of books that I've really enjoyed. The first one is called Digital Minimalism. So it's not explicitly about mindfulness, but for me, and I imagine like a lot of other people, I found that the amount of time I spend on social media and other tech is directly related to my emotional well-being and my ability to cultivate mindful awareness. So this book has useful tips for how you do what the author calls digital decluttering, along with some real life examples of how people use digital minimalism to be more present in their day-to-day lives. The second book is called 10% Happier by Dan Harris, and it's a book about meditation and mindfulness for people who aren't into either. So it's written by a journalist who was a lifelong skeptic of meditation until a personal crisis kind of forced him to look at unorthodox ways to relieve his anxiety. So he ended up learning more about mindfulness and other sort of like woo-woo practices that he didn't like. And the book provides a lot of information about the uses and benefits of meditation, as well as Dan Harris's own journey from being a type A, hyper-competitive, high-strung journalist to one of the people he would have sort of laughed at before his own journey into mindfulness. And so before we end with the meditation, I just want to make a few disclaimers about mindfulness. So I've been talking about mindfulness this whole time, giving you a lot of information about its benefits and how you can integrate it into your lives. But I don't want to oversell or give you a false idea of what mindfulness can do in all of our lives. So first of all, mindfulness isn't a magic pill. So building a mindful money practice isn't going to dissolve your debts or suddenly put $1 million in your bank account. It is a technique for living with and learning how to manage and respond to stress. Second, mindfulness isn't a replacement for therapy. especially if you're living with anxiety, depression, or recovering from past traumas. StartHereSTL.org has information about free and low cost mental health services in the St. Louis metro area. If cost is one of the reasons why you may be looking to use mindfulness to replace formal therapy. And then finally, mindfulness can't solve the root causes of financial stress. Mindfulness helps us navigate the stresses that come with living in the modern economy. It isn't a replacement for taking social action necessary to resolve the root causes of financial distress, like wealth inequality, depressed wages, or predatory banking practices. Mindfulness can help us deal with the symptoms of those issues, but if we don't address the root causes, those issues themselves will never fully go away. So finally, I want to do this 1 minute meditation just to give you an idea of how meditation is often easier than people think it is, as well as just a little taste of one kind of mindfulness meditation that you can do. So that was just 1 minute meditation, looking at sort of quieting your mind and finding peace. This you can do this kind of in the middle of the day. You can do this if you need to settle yourself before going into your sort of money management time. But I just wanted to give you a taste of the kinds of meditations that you can do. If that was not your jam at all, there are a million trillion other mindfulness meditation practices. And like I said, journaling is another option if that's not it for you either. But I just wanted to give you a taste of kind of how mindfulness it can be very easily integrated into your daily life. So finally, I will just pull up the chat box and see if there are any questions. And it looks like no one has questions, which I hope means I did my job well. So with that, I will just wish you a great afternoon, and I hope that this presentation and our little meditation helped center you for a bit so that you can go about the rest of your day. So thank you for joining, and I will send an email with all of the information that I discussed, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.